This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Yeah?
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Good to have you here. For the purposes of this conversation, you're a clinical trial patient, and we're going to get into some of that and exactly what that means and how all of this comes together. So thanks for you coming both. Let's get into it and just settle down a little bit. Dennis is going to share a proverb. We'd love to get your interpretation.
So the proverb comes from Kenya, yeah? And we all love our game, the national parks and all that. So this involves animals, but applies to our lives on a daily basis. So a leopard cannot change its spots. Plain and simple. A leopard cannot change its spots. Daktari, karibu nyumbani. How would you interpret that?
Asante. So, how do I interpret that?
Uh-huh.
So I think, we have our roots, we belong to our roots, and no one can change that. That's how I feel about this proverb. It's like we are always belonging to the same roots.
Same roots.
Like we can change one skin by another skin. Yeah.
That was a very clever answer. Things about proverbs, but yes, I think that when you think about a leopard, you think about a strong animal and what a strong animal can do. So I think it means that whatever happens to it, it still remains that strong animal. It still remains that to do what it can do. Yeah.
You can pet it. You can call it Johnny as a pet,
Yes.
but it's still a
It's
leopard.
still like, yes.
Absolutely. And I'll show you the truth. That's for sure. It's interesting that we have this conversation today because we're in the throes of very many health conversations at the moment where things have been signed for Kenya in terms of what can be done in the future when it comes to testing and trials. But right now, when we talk about what you can find or what you need to know for how you can treat particular diseases, then trials come into place. For the longest 3 months during COVID, we wondered, would we get a vaccine? And they said that these were on trial. What does that actually mean? Let's start with that, Daktari. When we're saying put things on trial and let's see if they'll actually work, and then we're not in a lab testing on animals, but then with human beings and how they will react. How do we get into that process?
So we need to understand, first of all, what is a clinical trial. So a clinical trial is a research that is done on human volunteers. So I really want to emphasize that those are volunteers. And to try a new intervention. Should it be a medication? Should it be a procedure? So any kind of new intervention on human, but those humans have volunteered to do the trial. Why it is important to have clinical trials alongside the usual practice, the standard of care, because all of the medications that have been approved and utilized have gone through clinical trials. So before the medication gets to us, for example, I'm just citing the easiest example, which is the medication, or even a new procedure, a surgical procedure. So it went through a preclinical phase, so it was tried on mice, and then we have different phases, so phase 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, it's where you only have phase 1 is just to make sure that the drug is safe and the dose is determined at that level. So you have basically 1, 2 patients who volunteer. And then phase 2, it's where you want to really prove the efficacy of that drug and then the response. So you have a dozen of patients who volunteer to get to phase 2 trial. Then phase 3, you have 100 of patients where you really now want to get to know more the drug, the efficacy, the minor side effects, the major side effects. And then once that is established, it is commercialized. So that's phase 4 now. Yeah, so those are the different steps of clinical trial. The intervention sometimes can be not even investigating a new drug, it can be investigating a new combination. So sometimes you realize that those 2 drugs can give you a better option than just using them separately. So sometimes it's just to prove that this combination would be better than the other combination, or using a single drug at a time.
So, understanding what are now clinical trials are, Faith, now, one would ask the question, how do you now end up being a volunteer? Do you just wake up one day and decide, hi, I'm here, please try it on me? What's the process? What's the procedure that would then see you even be accepted by the oncologist to just have you there?
First of all, of course, there's a diagnosis. And then for me, my oncologist, my doctor, is the one who suggested this to me because she's been part of she's known it. She's on something called the tumor board. So she told me about it, but there's a lot of documentation that you have to read. There are many tests that you have to go through before you're accepted, because again, you have to be, for example, let me give the example of cancer. You have to be at a certain stage for you to make it to be in this trial. And then, of course, yes, like Dr. Manel says, it's you volunteer. So you have to accept. You can decline. You have to accept. But then for me, I was lucky because my sister's a doctor. So I asked her, does this make sense? Because at that time, for me, I was like, there was so much to process. So I just asked her if it makes sense. My doctor, that time, Dr. Karen Babu, said it makes sense. But then still I had to meet for a month. I had to meet the doctors at the research unit who explained to me everything. There's things to sign, of course, because then at some point there's a legal framework that they also report to. So yeah, there's all that to understand. What does it mean, the implications? Does it get to a time when also it can stop?
Yeah.
And how do you go on? For how long? And what does it mean in the process? So with all that information, I was able to make a decision that, yes, it makes sense. And also, I was just like, let's just try something. We'll see what works. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you decide what it is that you're going to do? If somebody, how do you know what you're volunteering for? That you say, okay, well, I want to get better. I want to heal. How do you know that there's a clinical trial on place? How do you match it? Or does somebody say, okay, well, these are the certain clinical trials. We're trying to see if we can find a particular drug that will do this or a particular treatment that will achieve this. How do you know then what's available for you to then say, I want to get on it? You first, Faith, before we go to that, sorry.
How do I know what's available? I think for me, the doctors actually laid down what is available in terms of the drugs that are going to be prescribed. Of course, first was the standard care, which every patient is given. But then after that, they explained to me what every drug that was going to be given to me and what it was going to do for me at every stage. So for that, I was like, well, we can try this and see where it goes, because again, if it doesn't work, you can always go back to the standard care. So there was always that option of being able to go back to the standard care. But yeah, I got through to knowing at every stage, what am I being given, what is being given, and why. Yeah, so.
Okay. How do you decide that, Terry?
So from our end, in terms of the clinical trials, we have different types of clinical trials and then covering different types of cancers as well. So when we are in the clinic, we know that this trial is soon to be activated because we go through several steps of getting approvals from all the bodies, ethic approval, PPB approval. So we go through this. So when we know we are at the last step, that's when we start looking for the patients. And then we start approaching the patients at that time. So like, for example, I have this trial for breast cancer. And I know it is comparing a new combination of a targeted therapy, a smart drug that is already available in the market, with an old hormonal treatment. That's the standard of care. That's what everyone would get in 2025. But they will compare it to a new combination, the same smart drug, targeted therapy, with a new hormonal treatment that has been used before. So safety proven, it is commercialized, but for another indication. So now we want to prove that this combination, maybe in 2027, will be much better than the one we have now in 2025. So we start at that time approaching the patient and tell them, when they come to my clinic, so like, this is how I will treat you today, yeah? But there is this opportunity for this trial, and in my opinion, it's a very big opportunity that you should take, because you might belong to the people who will prove that this combination is better. So what is the best case scenario? You will benefit from the newer combination. What is the worst case scenario? You still get the standard of care.
So Dr. just from from how you speak, then here is a question where the patients that go through this process, one would call them the stars, pretty much in the medical field, because then they get to determine what would then be prescribed for the larger population. They are the stars that are not celebrated. They are those quiet stars that sit at the corner, yet they have given their lives to see to it that the larger population get to have that which will work. So in terms of what that means in the medical field, and for you, Faith, as well, as these trials do go through, and it is found that this is working, and you being, say, specimen X, and it is, and it is successful. How does that make you feel? And as well, just speak in terms of how these are the stars, those that make this journey successful.
Yeah. So I think the way, as doctors, we work in different settings. So just to share with you some of my experience. So I worked in a setting where you're in a center that is really renowned for having clinical trials. And then the patient in the first clinic, when they come, they'll be like, I've been diagnosed with this cancer. What is available for me in terms of clinical trials? So they know the value of the clinical trials. While when we started here, clinical trials was really something new. So when you start discussing clinical trials, we faced a bit of reluctance. So like the patients might tell you, I don't want to be the guinea pig. So you try to explain that you're not really being a guinea pig. This is what's really happening. Worst case scenario, you're still getting the treatment that you would get in my clinic. Best case scenario, you will get the newer combination. And we understand the side effects and everything. So we are not even exposing you to at a higher level of side effects. And even something will come up, we know how to take care of it. It's a win-win situation because, like you said, the patient has that, they volunteer, they really want to add value and then to help other people's life change. They really want to participate actively in making things change, number one. Number two, it's such a monitored way of receiving treatment that they feel even comfortable. So initially, they don't know how it goes, but then Faith can also share her experience. Initially, they don't know how it goes, but then once they are in the trial, they feel so comfortable because every single thing is monitored closely. Now, it's also a win-win situation for everyone. Things will evolve, we'll have new data, we'll have new science. But then also some of the patients could have not accessed that, even the standard of care, not even the newer combination, because of a prohibitive cost. Now, being under the clinical trial, everything is paid by the trial. So the scans, the blood test, the side effects, everything is paid by the trial. So sometimes there is even compensation for the transport and the stay if the patients come from another country or from another county. So it's a win-win situation for everyone. The ultimate goal and the ultimate aim of a trial is really bigger than, any financial benefit or anything. Also, I think it's time for us to move from just sitting on the corner on the international conferences and then complain that the African population has always been underrepresented. I think it's now time for us to take the lead and then get also our population into those clinical trials, because what we have been doing for many years is applying data from the West on African patients. And, recently people realized that, our genetic makeup is different. And so many new data are coming up to show that maybe the African response to that drug is different from an Asian response to that drug from a Caucasian. So I think it's time for us also to be proactive on that and then get our own data and then really establish our own medication and our own response and then know our own side effects. Yeah.
Faith, how does that make you feel? Because we're talking about 1.something billion people in the continent, and with trials to say that you have gone through, that would then make a decision on what would be applied for the Africans pretty much. And that means that you sit at that pedestal of being that change maker that the continent has wanted for a very long time. So from where you sit, how does that make you feel? Pretty much, yeah.
So, first of all, when you get the diagnosis, you just want to get better.
Yeah.
So you're not even thinking, okay. So when you're given this option, for me, I was like, whatever works. But then also I got to, before now treatment started, I got to talk to some of the nurses there, and they were telling me, these trials have been there, but they don't, it's so hard to get people to come. So yeah, it's a privilege, really. It is to be there and to see it working. Because at first, when you're starting, you're like, we'll just see if it works. You're praying that it works. So it's really good to see, to experience it. And like Dr. Manel said, it's a very, it's more than the standard care, because you really get a lot of attention from everyone, from the nurses to the doctors to the all the tests that you do, and everything's explained. Everything's explained step by step. Even if you feel like, sometimes you're going down, at least, they're able to explain, because they're always there. So it's really good because, and it would be good to be a success story, to show that this works, and people should actually try it. And yes, like Dr. Manel is saying, Kenya should get on board with more people. Right. It will save so many lives. I think it will save so many lives, because, we are with other patients there. And of course, you see how they're doing. Okay. And yeah, I haven't come across someone who's like not doing well. So yes, I advocate for it very much.
So walk us through a trial, Faith, and what exactly that entailed. After having been accepted into a trial, then what happens?
What happens when you're accepted? There's the standard chemo that everyone goes through. About 18 rounds. That's about 6 cycles. Then after that, depending on your type of cancer, because they're different, then they put you on the medication. But before that, you've got to do a PET scan, which shows how the chemo responded, whether it responded well or not. Then from there, then they start administering the medication. Depending on what you have. For me, I've got like three medications. One, there's a tablet, and there are 2 injections. One, the injection is, I think, 1 every 4 weeks. Yeah, but different times. So I've got to be at the hospital quite regularly, but less than the chemo time. Yeah, the effects of these drugs are not as severe as chemo. Definitely. There's so much technology that has gone into medication now that it makes it better. It makes it very, very bearable. Like, I'm back to work, so that has helped a lot. And of course, then in between all these cycles, there are PET scans, CT scans. You have to do an ECG, an echo for the heart exam. You've got to do blood works every other time, and reviews every time I go. I've got to be reviewed so that they can check on the progress to see if the response is good, and if it's not, then what do we do about it?
Okay. Are you told before you start the trial of what guarantees or non-guarantees that there will be?
Yes. You are. We are told that it is a trial. Definitely, we are told that it is a trial. And we're told about the percentage of, survivors who have in other countries had this trial done. So at least we're given that, let me call it kind of an assurance. Yeah, because we are still on this journey. So let me call it kind of an assurance. Yes.
Okay.
So at least by that, you're encouraged to.
Okay. And so how long does a trial last? When the prescribed medication comes to an end, or how long do you go through a trial? And then how would, from what you understand, how would you know that a trial or this trial that you're on at the moment is successful?
How long? I've done it now for a year. This will be, I'll be finishing, I think, a year in January, because we started the trial in January. The trial starts after the chemo. So I'll be doing till January. We've done now, this is, I think, 17 cycles.
Yes.
Yeah. And we're still going on. So I think it is determined by the response, right? Yeah, it is determined by the response. Yeah, so I can't really tell we'll do it for 2 years or we'll do it for 1.5 years. I think it's from my understanding and from my journey and experience, I think it's determined by.
Okay.
So maybe just to add
Yeah,
a
so
comment
how-
on
yeah.
that. Yeah. So usually what happens, like I said, we know that there are those actively recruiting trials, and then we pre-screen patients. So she might come to my clinic and I'm like, oh, she ticked the main criteria for the trial. And then I share with her that, did you hear about the trial happening here? And then I share with her an overview. This is what's happening. She's like, yes, I'm interested. If she's interested now, I move to the next, so I send her to the next side, to the clinical research unit. So she goes to the clinical research unit of Aga Khan. She will meet the nurse, so the coordinator of the trial. And then before going into details of her, confidential information, she'll share with her what we call an informed consent. So she'll take her through the trial, detail by detail by detail, eligibility criteria, exclusion criteria. When do you exit the trial? When do we call a good response? When do we call a non-response? So she take her through this, like really in details. And I think it takes like 2 hours or more to take her through the trial in details. And then she's given 24 hours to think about it, to discuss with the family. And then if she is agreeable, she will give her consent. And that's when now we start the investigations and everything. So because Faith might be just having an idea about the trial, because, diagnosis came in and then immediately she was involved in the trial. So she doesn't know the other side. I can see both sides. Those who are on the trial.
Yeah.
So on my research day, I see the research patients. And then on my usual clinic days, I see the normal clinical patients. It's the same process. They go through regular visits, usually every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks. They go through blood tests every 3 weeks, scans every 3 months, 2D echo ECG every 3 months. So those are like, standard practice that they go through. But a bit more thorough because we are looking for something on the trial. Now, how will she know? You asked about like how long is the trial?
Yes.
So Faith had just been 1 year now. We have other patients for other cancers, for example, esophageal cancer. Now they are like 3 years down the line. They are just on follow-up. They finished the treatment. There are no evidence of disease. They are cleared from the cancer, but then they just come for like routine follow-up every 3 months the first 2 years, and then every 6 months the second 3 years, just to say hi. We do the scans, and then we continue confirming that they are free of any cancer. So the exit time of the trial, like Faith has said correctly, it's maybe when the response is no longer there, or there is an adverse event, like there is a serious adverse event, and then the patient cannot continue on the trial and decides to discontinue, or even the patient's, proper decision to exit the trial. We had a patient who exited the trial. So that's how, the duration is determined usually.
Dr. You've spoken of non-response and a good response. What would equate to one being determined to being non-response? What does that mean? After, say, a patient has gone through the entire exercise and based off the data that you get, how do you determine that this is non-response? And what would good response then equate to? And how do you communicate then to a patient for them to know in terms of proper update on where we are? How do we move forward? How do you share that with them? And what do you then determine the next phase based on the data that you get?
Sure. So how do we know that the patient is responding or not responding? We usually assess them on 3-4 aspects. The clinical aspect. So we always ask the patient if there is any complaints, any new symptoms they have felt. We examine thoroughly the patient, standard of care and clinical trial, and then we do some blood tests. So sometimes there are some biochemical markers that we can detect on the blood test that can tell us something is wrong. And the most objective assessment is the radiological assessment. So we have targets, we have lesions that we are treating, and then we do a scan, we do a measurement, and then we assess how far the response is. Is it reducing? Did it completely disappear? So a good response is either a partial response, so like anything from 30% up to 99%, or even a complete response, 100%. So usually we have those aspects that we assess every time the patient comes to the clinic. In terms of scans, of course, we don't do them every 3 weeks. There is a timeline for the scans, so like we do them every 3 months or every 6 months. Sometimes we can do them earlier if clinically we are suspecting something. So that's how we usually assess the patient.
Okay. I mean, just for purposes of clarification, and folks are wondering, okay, so how much do I need to pay to get onto this trial? I think you had said that you're applying for a trial, and usually everything in that trial is taken care of by the originators of the trial, isn't it?
Correct.
Or is that something you're paying?
No, it's completely free of charge. The patient just volunteers. They understand, the whole, like the end point of the trial, and then they decide to be enrolled. Everything is free of charge for the clinical trial. No one pays nothing because, if money comes in, there will be a conflict of interest.
Indeed.
So, yeah.
Of course, with the trial, the word trial already denotes that you are attempting to do something. So does that then also mean that you're not sure of the outcome and that you're actually just trying for the best results?
So behind every trial, there is a hypothesis.
Okay.
Yeah. So those trials, they are either pharma-driven or they are actually investigator-driven. So like I've observed something happening in my clinic several times, and I feel like maybe if I use this drug for this particular condition, I may get a good response. So there is a hypothesis, and then you go and then you work with a statistician, and then you try and get the number that can prove your hypothesis. Yeah. So there is a solid hypothesis behind it. First of all, it doesn't come out of the blue. So there is a solid hypothesis behind it, but definitely there is no guarantee of result. But when I say no guarantee of result, it will never be a trial that will be unethical or will compromise the patient's safety or benefit in terms of medication. So let's say, for example, today we are trying this combination. And then there is another international trial that came up with a new drug that has dramatically changed the outcomes and has become the new standard of care. Everything changed, adjusts on that trial. So that because in January 2025, for example, that drug was not existing or was not approved.
Right.
Or the results did not come out. So the old standard of care is the one that has been used. And then by June, and the patient is still the same person on the same trial, by June, everything has changed on an international level. There is a new recommendation. The trial has to adjust to the new standard of care to remain ethical. Yeah, so those are like the minimum ethic requirements for any trial. So there is no breach of any ethic rule. Yeah.
Faith, you mentioned something in terms of you have been going through the trials that now you're back to work. That means something is working, So in terms of the standard care, compared to standard care before and the trials that you're going through, what would be your position? That the trials are working as compared to standard?
I don't know that compared to standard, but I can speak for the trial.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. It's working. I mean, by January, I was back to work when I was starting. So of course, not as much as now.
Yeah.
But yes, I would say that it's working. That because also of the follow-up that there is, and every time you go for follow-up, for checkup and the scans, they actually show you, like, this is how you were doing, and this is how it looks now. This, when you came, this is how you were. They actually show you how dotted I was. To now, at least, this is how it looks. So it's encouraging, and yes, I would really advocate for it. I would urge more people to try it, to be in the trial.
Right, to be in the trial.
Yeah.
That's interesting as she's mentioned that, because then one would imagine that for something like cancer, which we understand can be financially debilitating, is that many people don't have the adequate resources to take care of the care that is needed around cancer. So do we have more folks than for trials that are available? Is there a line? People are lining up waiting to be approved for trials, or are we not having as many people take it up?
No, actually, we are struggling to enroll patients into trial.
Really?
But, yeah, we were really struggling. So when we had our trials open, like we advertise everywhere. We do not miss any educational forum to mention that, please, we have this trial happening. And then, when you share the information, like, for example, we have immunotherapy. And at that time, immunotherapy, so for another type of cancer, there was immunotherapy available. One cycle of immunotherapy is about 4,000 USDs. Yeah, 4,000 USDs, and it has to be done either every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks. And esophageal cancer is really like in the top 5 cancers in Kenya. It's really a health issue, and it's quite like we have the numbers. When you compare us to other parts of the world, we have the highest numbers of esophageal cancer. So we should be driving the data basically. So we need to understand what's happening in Kenya to have these high number of esophageal cancer, and what if they get the benefit of the opportunity to benefit from immunotherapy. So those patients, just as an example, they received a full year of immunotherapy. So like you can count, so let's say 500,000 Kenya shillings times 18. And esophageal cancer, it comes mainly, it doesn't really come from, the cities. It comes from rural areas. So those patients could have never benefited from immunotherapy if the trial wasn't there. And I'm so happy and proud to see them up to today, 3 years down the line, still alive, doing well, cancer-free, and coming just, to say, hi, we are okay, we do the scan, they are clear.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Faith, what would you say is the reason why Kenyans don't want to show up for these trials? So it's big because we live in a society that stereotypes do exist. Why are you going there? Are you sure? So there is also mis and disinformation that does exist with these trials. Why are you why are you going for trials yet we do not have results? Yet that's exactly why we need trials to happen, so that we have information that will help us make better decisions. So how then would you advise us as Kenyans to jump on these opportunities so that we be the change makers that we want to be in, and as well government position in terms of encouraging and pushing these conversations to be front and center?
First, like you've said, people don't know. I think many people don't know. Even when I started, I didn't know. But then I got to know. So there's that. And even when I tell people, they're like, you're sure about that? You want to do? Like, yeah, so how is it going? Then they're like, oh, then they see it's going on well. So there's that. And then I think people don't share. Yeah, many people don't want to say that this is what I'm doing and this is how I got there. There's that. And then there's also the fact you've talked about us as Kenyans and our leaders. Yeah, they need to talk about it. Yeah, once they talk about it, at least people will know that this is happening and they need to be enrollment. Yeah, of course, I hope I don't get in trouble for this, but there's also interest, with the other side. So, but this would benefit so many people if they got to know, especially, not just in the rural, even in the city, people can't afford it, but they would get so much help if they got to know more about it. That's if we shared that this is what it is. And then also, if it's just put out there, that this is there and you should come for it. Yeah.
But, and we can be real, Faith, and Dr., isn't it? Because when we hear trials and we hear clinical trials, for a lot of people, the first thing that comes into your mind is mice in a lab. It's true. People think, okay, so are you going to do to me what people may have done to animals in a lab somewhere? And so somebody says, well, I don't want to subject myself to that. Those are real emotions that come from people, even folks who will be in a position where they can be helped, right? So Faith, you went and you got the information, and then you were better for it because you said, okay, this is something that I can do. Like you said, helped your sister as a doctor, so she gave you the information that you needed as well. But then there are folks who are sitting on a problem with the mindset that this is the case, which is why we asked, what happens in a trial? What exactly happens? And that also, we're trying something that we don't know the results of. So maybe the almost stigma that surrounds all of this can be, deconstructed so that we can understand what exactly it is and not surround it with maybe words that people don't understand. That it is treatment. It's not trying to see if your body can respond to it, but it is actually somebody being treated in a trial with medication and procedures that will help you get better. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong.
Okay.
So I just wanted to add also, for example, for the trial Faith is doing, like I said, it's a combination of drugs that we are already using. It's the combination that has been tested. So we had another trial, the KRAS G12C trial, where a new mutation has been discovered. It's called the KRAS G12C. And then a new medication was discovered for that mutation. So this was really an investigational drug. So we struggled a bit. So what that trial offered us, and it was really a huge opportunity, is a free of charge full genetic testing, because we are looking for one mutation, but you have to test 400 mutations to be able to identify if that one exists, yes or no. And if it exists, you can give that new molecule, which actually did not even have a name, it had a code. You need to give that new molecule, which is a smart drug or a targeted therapy, to the patient. So that's really, that was really a difficult call to make for the patient. You'll tell them, like, I'm really trying a new investigational drug.
Right.
But then also, you need to put it in the context. Those patients, at that time of enrollment, they didn't have any other option. So either be part of the future, and nowadays the future in oncology is precision oncology. Tell me what is your genetic signature, I'll tell you what is your oral tablet. Yeah, so we are on that era. So they had either nothing or these oral tablets, But then there was a lot of things that we benefited out of that trial, not only because at the end, only 1% would be positive for that particular mutation and will benefit from that oral tablet. But then we managed to have a look at the genomes of the patient. So we can also see if there are other targetable mutations, and those mutations have other readily available in the market medication. So there is a lot to gain from a clinical trial. That's what I'm trying to say, a lot, in terms of, free access to medication, the value of, helping science evolve and then make new discoveries, the value of having our own African data. It's really a win-win on all aspects. And I think just because it was the beginning, there was a bit of reluctance. But I think now people are more open towards clinical trials. Like, even up to now, some patients now come and they're like, I heard you're doing clinical trials on breast cancer. I have a breast cancer. Am I eligible to any of the trials? So I'm seeing the change in the mentality and then in the culture, which is positive. Maybe what we really need, what is still a bit frustrating for us as doctors, is that our process to get the clinical trial approved takes forever. So, for example, there was an amazing clinical trial for triple-negative breast cancer that we could have had here, and based on our data, we have a high rate of triple-negative breast cancer, which is an aggressive breast cancer. Just because of delays in getting all the bodies, the boards approved. So starting from, ethic committee to PPB to this, it takes 365 days sometimes to get a trial activated.
Why?
300 because everything is you can move to one step only if you achieve the first step. Yeah. And then by the time, you keep moving, some amendments are happening, because remember those, this trial in particular, it's an international trial. So recruitment is happening all over the world, from Europe, Asia, America, Africa. Now we are delaying. Our site is not activated. People are recruiting out there. We have a target number, 1,000 patients. They have reached 500. They have reached 700. We are still waiting for the approval. We are still waiting for our site to activate. Sometimes we get our site activated and we only have 50 spots remaining around the world.
Oh, hang on. I'm sorry. So a clinical trial is not country-specific or site-specific, that we say, well, okay, Dr. Manal has this clinical trial, which she may be the overseer of. But a clinical trial can be global. There's somebody in Pakistan who is in the same trial that Faith is in Nairobi, and that somebody is in Abuja, and somebody is in New York. Is that what we're saying?
So we have different types of trials.
Okay.
The one that we have now are international and multicentric. So we have several centers around the world. And everything is actually even monitored and checked centrally. So like, the radiological response, the accuracy of the biopsy specimen is being sent centrally to Europe or to wherever the center is, to be checked so that everyone is aligned around the world. But we can also have a site-specific trial. So those are like the trials, let's say, like I said, I've noticed something in my clinical practice and I got an idea. For example, my patients are having more side effects to this drug than the rest of the world. So I can do my proper Kenya-specific site or sub-Saharan African patient site, or by analyzing the genome, we identify there is a different cluster of genes here. So we focus on our genomes here, and then we try to identify what is this new signature that we have identified, and then maybe have the newest molecule for that particular. And we've done that before. So Prof. Sally had, at Aga Khan, we have analyzed the genome of triple-negative breast cancer, Black Kenyan, and we compared them to Caucasian, so like white American, and Black American. There was a different transcriptome that was picked up on the Kenyan Bantu genes. So that one needs more, we need to look at it. We need to analyze what is this new signature. Maybe it's the one driving now. I've mentioned earlier that we had a high rate of triple-negative breast cancer. Maybe that's the one behind the high rate. Maybe it's something that we can target. So we really need to be more involved in research to be able to also identify our own signatures and then fulfill our own needs. Yeah, but for the one, for example, Faith is on the trial. It's an international multi-centric trial. So people are recruiting from all over the world.
Dr. You mentioned something that is critical in terms of having an African data center, pretty much, that would help us that would come up with policies that would help us treat our patients, the sick, and give them the proper care that they do need. That it does not make sense that a clinical trial that would benefit millions is taking a whole year, while others are moving forward. So are we having discussions with government? Are we having discussions with policymakers in terms of shortening the time period to make it easier for these clinical trials to take place? As well as, how critical would it be for the African continent, for Kenya to have their own data that then determines the kind of policies that are put in place? And you as a patient as well, how would that be a game changer in terms of knowing this is the data that is helping the country come up with policies that benefit the citizenry?
Yeah, so there is a lot of advocacy coming from, the doctors, the researchers, and there is also will from, from the boards who give the approvals for the trials to try and shorten. So we have several meetings. So policymakers are also involved. We involve them. We reach to them. We are reachable. So there is a lot of work that we are trying to do to try and shorten that period. And I think the COVID period has shown us that it can be done. Getting approvals for trials during the COVID period around the world has dramatically shortened because there was a crisis at that time. So if we could do it under pressure, we can also do it out of pressure if we structure ourselves well. From our end also, there is a lot of advocacy. So we are doing a lot of capacity building, and we are taking our independency, kind of. We don't have to, be dependent on the international trials. So at Aga Khan, for example, we have it's soon to be started. We have our own biobank, and we do our own in-house genetic testing. We no longer need to send it outside and then wait that 1 month or more to do it. And just, to share this information, because it's an important information, 10% of the breast cancers can be hereditary. Triple-negative breast cancer, 30% even can be hereditary. So for those who do have significant family history of breast cancers that does not skip generations, or they only have the triple-negative breast cancer, or breast cancer at a very young age, 26, 30, now the testing is available, and it's at a very subsidized price. Because there is a partnership with pharma also. So it's at a very subsidized price. So we can move even another step ahead, screening and preventing cancer. So people need to know what is being done here, and a lot of progress has been made. So I think we are progressing, not to the level that we want to, and we keep pushing. And then, of course, with patients' advocacy as well, so many things have been achieved thanks to the patients' advocacy.
Yeah.
Right. What are you looking for, Faith? This is interesting because we think about, okay, well, there's a medical diagnosis, there's a treatment, in this case, a trial that you've entered into, and it seems like a no-brainer. Somebody says, okay, well, obviously I want to get better and I want to get well. But what are you hoping for beyond, after having finished this trial, the time that it takes to do so, and then coming out of it? What are you hoping for to achieve for yourself, for others?
Well, for myself, of course, 100% response.
Mm-hmm.
And then for others, and I'm hoping that it will encourage people to come and do this and be treated and try it. I mean, everything, even the other standard is trying. So I'm really hoping that we can get more people on board and we can get more people talking about this.
Right.
And more people saying positive things about it, even getting the government to hurry up and not take so long to
hurry up.
yeah. to approve things that are really, I mean, health things are serious and they're very critical sometimes. So it would be helpful. I'm hoping for that. I'm hoping that people will be more positive on trials and on just wanting to get these things moving in terms of healthcare.
Yeah.
Yes.
And how do you feel? How do you feel physically?
Physically?
Yes.
I'm very well right now.
Yes.
Of course, we've moved from the weak side, tired, and all that. But I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. I can work for long hours.
Yeah.
I can travel. I can do things. So I'm well.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's very good to hear and very good to know that as well. Dr. I mean, even in the few minutes that we have left, as we get through, I mean, into times where obviously we're in a communication technological age at the moment, are we seeing that more technology will be applied to things like this? Because cancer, for all intents and purposes, is not novel, but in terms of the way it is affecting our populations today, it is novel. It's still a new thing that we're not really sure how to tackle. How will this affect us going forward in terms of what technology can actually do? You mentioned a little bit about that technology and what it can do to spur us or to move us forward. Do we see it being a game changer and then how we attack, No.
It's actually a game changer and it does help us a lot. When you have technology, like borders are open now, so you can do anything. You can be involved in international trials. We actually have, I wanted also to share with you another trial, the brain resilience trial. So where we do an MRI for the patient, and then they have their Fitbit watch, and then we monitor them through their treatment, and then we see if the cancer diagnosis and the stress and the treatment makes the patients age faster than a normal, comparator. So we have a normal control arm, and then we have the patient. So we are also utilizing, technology. AI is everywhere. So now also we have AI-assisted diagnostics that makes us, save time, number one. Number two, it can even make us reach those deep rural areas where maybe they couldn't have had access to a specialized doctor or a specialized or a sophisticated technique of diagnosis. So we are using also digitalization.
Yeah.
It's on our side and not against us, definitely. Yeah.
Always good to know and very good to hear that people's lives can actually be, touched, saved through this. And thank you for being here to then be able to be authentic, Faith, about how this has actually been, and also then how you've continued to work with people, Dr.
I think even then, we just send you your flowers, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Send you your flowers because it is through people like you that the world gets to be a better place. So we celebrate you today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Absolutely. You. Dr. Manuel Haj is a medical oncologist. Faith Musoga, of course, this morning champion. We'll call you that. From what?
Thank you. And
thank you very much for being here. On this Healthy Friday conversation. Asante Sana. We look forward to more. And 8:01. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.